It is spring 1981 in the Vatican. The Pole Karol Wojtyla, who has chosen the name John Paul II, has been sitting on the papal throne for 2.5 years. He is the first non-Italian pope in more than 4 centuries. At the same time, he is a man who is very unpopular with communist functionaries throughout Eastern Europe. His first trip to Poland in 1979 dealt an unprecedented blow to their ideology. The people enthusiastically cheered John Paul II at every turn, and in return he supported the democratization of Poland as loudly as had not been heard for many years. But then comes the fateful May 13th, 1981. The 61-year-old Pope is driving through St. Peter's Square in his open limousine, blessing the onlookers. That's when it happens. A gunman appears in the crowd with a semi-automatic pistol in his hand, and before anyone can stop him, he fires a series of shots. 4 of them hit the Pope. 2 in the lower abdomen, 1 in the left hand, 1 in the shoulder. The head of the Vatican's security immediately pounces on the shooter, and with the help of a nun and several bystanders, knocks him to the ground. It soon turns out that he is a 23-year-old hitman from Turkey, Mehmet Ali Ağca. He has already committed the murder of a journalist and 2 bank robberies in his country. He was sentenced to life in prison for this, but he managed to escape from the most secure Turkish prison. Meanwhile, the Pope is rushed to the hospital. The whole world is anxiously awaiting whether he will survive the murderous attack. The injuries are not life-threatening, but the Pope has lost almost all his blood. The more than 4-hour operation is successful. John Paul II is saved, and from the hospital he asks the faithful, "Pray for my brother, whom I have sincerely forgiven." Ağca himself immediately becomes the focus of the investigation after the assassination. But the police and agents are desperate for him. He constantly changes his statements, and it is impossible to get the true version of the whole event from him. The official report of the investigation commission will eventually state that the entire operation was planned by the Bulgarian and East German secret services on the direct instructions of the Soviet KGB. Some of Ağca's contacts, especially with the Bulgarian secret services, would indicate this. However, there is no direct evidence, and the 3 Bulgarians suspected of preparing the assassination will be acquitted by the court in 1986. Ağca receives a life sentence. On Christmas '83, 2.5 years after the assassination, he receives a strange visit to prison. John Paul II himself comes to talk to the man who tried to see him off. The 2 men talked for a long time. What exactly they talked about is not known. However, the Pope stated after the meeting that he had no doubts about the background of the assassination. The Pope's words, "As everyone says, Ağca is a professional killer." This means that it was not his initiative, that someone else invented it and gave the orders. And again, we can only speculate who that someone else is. The KGB, John Paul II attributed his salvation to Our Lady of Fatima. She appeared to 3 poor Portuguese children for the first time on May 13th. That was in 1917, and that was the beginning of the events that led to the most famous miracle of the 20th century. Tens of thousands of people saw the unprecedented light phenomena at Fatima. And to make matters worse, there were many coincidences. It was Our Lady of Fatima who appeared to the children in 3 apparitions. The first 2 were made public, but the third remained hidden in the Vatican vault for decades. It was not until 2000 that John Paul II made the dream known to the faithful. It was said to be a prediction that a deadly attack would be carried out on the bishop in white. The Pope said at the time that he meant the assassination of May 13th, 1981. John Paul II ultimately remained Pope until his death in 2005. He survived 1 more assassination attempt, another coincidentally in Fatima, Portugal, and he died of natural causes. He was 85 years old. In 2011, he was beatified in record time, and no one doubts that he will soon become a saint. Mehmet Ali Ağca was pardoned in Italy against all odds. It was at the Pope's intercession in 2000. Ağca had served less than 20 years at the time. However, he was not released. He traveled to a Turkish prison where he was to serve another life sentence for that long-ago murder of a journalist, but he was pardoned. And so Ağca in 2010, after almost 30 years in prison, walked out a free man. Today, he is 54 years old and is undoubtedly one of the few people alive who know why one of the most beloved and respected popes of the 20th century was supposed to die 31 years ago.